This limbo that the Deputy President of the African National Congress has now been placed in, and some fancy footwork covering the spin, suggesting that this will not affect the composition of the cabinet.
What do you think is going on? I think they're telling us Nomvula Mokonyane is grieving, although earlier this week she was going to be the chair of chairs. They would have discussed that with her. She would have accepted the position. And then at the 11th hour, she pulls out. Last night, again, 11th hour, we're here, Malusi Gigaba and Deputy President Mabuza. What do you think is going on?
So I think partly it's the change in the political economy of South Africa, in that state institutions have suddenly been re-empowered, that there will be no protectors. We are told, we're waiting to see whether this will happen, but there are no protectors who will prevent prosecution from happening. Once the oath of office is taken as members of parliament, of course, that oath has certain consequences, and violating that oath, or once you're a member of parliament, should you answer a question from an opposition party member and mislead the parliament in a particular way, lying to parliament is an offence that has seen someone go to prison for. So there are all sorts of new dynamics in play that have to, I think, be watched by people who may not want to wear the so-called orange overalls, and may want to have a different approach. Also, there are dynamics inside the party that have to be taken account of, and this could be around those dynamics between the factions. And now that the election is over, all those calls for unity may have to take a second seat to people's ambitions. Those dynamics, we will only see them work themselves out over the next year, 2 years, as we go into the next set of elections for who does stand up for the ANC and where fingers are being pointed at whom for what purposes.
So this report by the Integrity Committee is not new, it's been out a while. So those people that were implicated knew a while ago. Again, 11th hour they only step forward and say, I'm not going to go to Parliament. Some are saying they've done the right thing. But one can't help getting a sense that maybe they were elbowed.
They could have been elbowed, but they could also have been reminded by the kinds of statements that have been made by the Chief Justice over the last few days around particularly the duty that falls to elected officials and to officials who are constitutional beings once they have been elected. And this may be, for some people, a sign of hope that the new dawn is not just another day, the same clock, but that actually there may be new dynamics at play here. The test, of course, will be for Cyril Ramaphosa, both as head of state, but separately as head of a party, whether he can unify the various forces and whether the ANC can come out of this stronger rather than weaker. Because if it comes out weaker, of course, the next two elections coming up, those will be issues that the party would have to face. If it comes out stronger, the opposition certainly has to wake up and realize that the party under Cyril Ramaphosa may have been injured in this election, but could, come back stronger. But that again, those are dynamics that will play themselves out over the next 2 years. For the first few weeks that this is going to be watched, it will be who is in cabinet, who does not go to parliament, what is the power of that Integrity Commission's recommendations, and whether or not, as somebody else recently said, the moral sort of caveat, which is to recuse oneself in the interests of a larger organization which has no legal space in which it can be worked out, so you can't force people not to take up the position, whether the moral caveat actually works.
So the Integrity Committee has said that those that have been implicated in its report, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they've got an opportunity to tell their side of the story, which is quite interesting, because you'd think that a report would be compiled with all the facts on the table. Or is this a review of the report? What do you make of...
My sense is that it's the kind of Byzantine process of what happens inside political parties. We're seeing it in one other party in South Africa, in the Democratic Alliance, where people have to be given, shall we say, due process. So if the report has been compiled, people have to be given the option and the chance to rebut it. And presumably that is what will happen next week. Some people may be very confident that they'll be able to rebut it. The timing is slightly awkward because this ideally should have been done before the elections, before the lists were compiled. The fact that it wasn't can now be debated as a kind of moot point. It's academic. But what's seriously at issue here is the very strange timing. This is happening during the swearing-in process of other MPs.
Again, it almost suggests that the elections was the line in the sand. If you get your mandate, you get your power, and now he seems to be exercising it.
Yes, well, that's one reading of it. Another reading is that people are suddenly, in a new administration where it's not the interim administration between Valentine's Day 2018 and, May 24th.
Yeah.
It is a new administration that will come in. That administration, the interim administration, empowered all sorts of state institutions by appointing key figures who will presumably fight back is the wrong word given its loaded phrasing in South Africa, but presumably steer the ship of state back into where it's expected to function, which is that the prosecuting authorities behave as prosecuting authorities do or should do without fear or favor, that this isn't a factional issue, that the sense of being above the fray is crucial for those state institutions so that they do not become the vehicles through which intra-ANC battles are fought, and that's crucial, that is the perception of the public and that it is proven in the working out of those institutions.
All right, so there's a small matter of Deputy President David Mabuza. We'll chat a little bit more about that, because what might that mean in the interim? Might we not have a Deputy President? I don't know, but we'll chat about that, because right now we're going to cross to